I want to welcome you to our annual health symposium. We've been doing this since 2013. It was a vision that was given to me when I was in the hospital after I found out that I had congestive heart failure. And the Lord said, you need to give something to testify and get people to come out and get physicals and take care of their health. So I didn't want to be disobedient. He's the one person I didn't want to be disobedient to. I might be disobedient to my wife and other people, but not God. So just a little background. I am a heart transplant recipient. I had heart transplant in 2020, May 6th. And ever since that's been going on, I've been improving due to the help of some important doctors and unfortunately a nurse that kind of works with her. But I won't say nothing bad about her. But, you know, it's a testimony that, you know, God is good. God is good. You know, at 71, you know, I had the heart transplant. It was discussed with me about possibly doing a pump. But I was kind of adamant in saying that I didn't want a pump, that wasn't the quality of life that was adjusted to living. And God made it happen that a heart transplant was the way to go. When I was in the hospital, I just got in the hospital, and COVID hit. When COVID hit, everything shut down. So I told them that I felt safer at home. And they had stopped doing transplants because of COVID. They're trying to put a hand on how to deal with COVID back then. So I went home. I was home for 30 days, and I would visit with my doctor over the media, you know, and they started having heart transplants about 30 days later, and she could tell that I was going down. So she said, "Can you get back in here?" I said, "Sure." So I went back in, and lo and behold, probably a week later, I had the heart transplant. You know, it's nothing but God. So ever since then, you know, I was an avid golfer, you know, and I told them, I said, "Look, I got to be ready to go on my golf trip. So, you know, after this transplant, y'all got to make sure I'm ready," you know. They looked at me like I was crazy. But I told them I was, so that was nothing new. But, you know, I did make it to the golf trip. Been playing golf since then. I've had several surgeries, you know. I'm recovering from a foot surgery. I told him that I got a golf trip to go on at the end of this month, so I got to be ready to go. He looked at me crazy too. But, you know, hopefully, and God willing, I will go. But it's just something that, you know, I like to try to stress to you. It's important that you do take care of yourself. No matter what age you are, it's important that you take care of yourself. And it kind of hit me this year for a topic to be stress and how it affects your health. So I've asked 3 individuals to come to talk about stress and how it affects your health. Now, the first individual is Dr. Rao. I keep mispronouncing that name. I don't know why. It's probably because, you know, she thinks more of what my wife is doing than what I'm doing when I come there for the clinic. And if Mary does not show up, where's Mary? Not hello, Ed, how you doing? Where's Mary? You know, I don't understand why she would be like that, you know, because I'm a nice person. Well, I'm nice crazy, okay? And her partner in crime is coming with her, Kathy McDonald. I called her the harpoon lady. She's the post-op transplant nurse. And they had this shot for transplant individuals because our immune system is down and it never will be normal again. So she would harpoon me in the derriere twice, and she seemed to have got a joy out of that. I don't understand why. But anyway, so the first speaker would be Dr. Rao and Kathy McDonald, my cardiologist. Thank you. Come on up.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Rao, Rupa Rao. I've been a cardiologist, and I specialize in transplant cardiology, and I work at Methodist Hospital, Indiana University. I've been in Indiana through my training and everything for more than 17 years now. So I call IU as my home, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk today. Kathy, my transplant coordinator, is here, who will join me shortly, but I'll get started. And it's been a pleasure taking care of Edward Vance, Mr. Edward Vance, and his wife, who accompanies him to the clinic. As you can see, coming to the doctor is not stressful. Getting your health checked is not stressful. We have a lot of fun. If I don't leave the room without laughing, then I feel like something is wrong, something is not right. People in the hallway think that there's a party going on. And I'm sorry, I have to catch up with Mary. That is not going to change whatever you say. We girls, Kathy, I, and Mary, will be talking before we turn our attention to you. I'm sorry about that. So the topic today is stress and heart disease. It's very important we pay attention to this because everything in life is interlinked. You take care of one, the other automatically falls in place. Stressed brain, stressed heart. It's just not in our brain that when we are dealing with the stress, that's something, we are thinking about it, but it gets manifested in the body in terms of increased heart rate, increase in blood pressure, and stress is common, right? Is there anybody who doesn't have stress in life? No, stress is part of life. And you read this like great biographies, you learn that nobody has it easy in life. Adversities are common. It's our perception of stress, how we deal with stress is what is different and what we have to learn. The reason why we have to pay attention to is because stress affects just not only like our mood or how we deal with life, but it has a big effect on how the body responds to it and how it leads to other diseases. As I said, we all have stress, and the body responds to stress by increasing the heart rate and increasing the blood pressure, and that's a compensatory mechanism. In the short run, it is okay, and you see a snake, you run. That's needed, right? You need a little bit of stress in life, or it could be a motivation. Like Mr. Vance is coming to the clinic, I'm a little stressed and I'm prepared, and that's normal. That can happen. But when the stress starts taking a toll on your body, that's when it is a problem. A chronic stress, chronic worry. What happens? As I said, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, and when the brain is stressed, it sends signal to the body to synthesize bad hormones. These hormones are good in the short term, but not when they keep building and in the long term. This stress hormones can actually does a lot of badness, increases inflammation. As you know that inflammation is the root cause of a lot of diseases. This inflammation can affect the arteries that supply the blood vessels in the heart, cause narrowing, not only in the heart, everywhere else. This can cause stroke. When you're stressed, it's very common that I see the diabetes, the blood sugar. It's simply out of control. No matter what you do sometimes, we go up on the medicine, we cannot get the blood sugar under control. The same thing with the blood pressure. The blood pressure was under control last year, but in the last 6 months, I'm not very sure why, even though I'm taking my medicines, it's not under control. And we go up on the medicines, but we forget how much these other things are playing a part, how much they are contributing to all these other disease states. So it's just not only that, diabetes becomes out of control, or people who are not diabetic can become diabetic. People who don't have hypertension can get hypertension. Is it just because the brain is stressed, the body releases all these bad things? It's just not limited to that. It translates into, like, when you're stressed, you feel like not doing anything else. You don't feel like going out. You don't feel like enjoying. You don't feel like hanging out with your friends because you're already worrying. Even if you are hanging out, your mind is thinking something else. So one thing gets translated into another thing, and that actually has an effect on your body in terms of blood pressure, diabetes, and other disease states. And you pick up bad habits, right? I'm stressed. I gave up smoking 10 years back, but I'm stressed and I'm back to smoking. So many of our patients say that. Alcohol, they turn into alcohol. And as you can see, there's a lot of other bad things that people can take up to combat stress. Instead of managing stress through the right ways, people take up other bad habits. Again, smoking, alcohol has an effect on your health. Not exercising. I see it in myself. I confess with a lot of my patients that I preach this to my patients. I can convince them, but sometimes I need somebody else to tell me, take care of yourself. We forget about ourselves. Sometimes we are so overwhelmed, so engaged in taking care of people around us that we forget ourselves. It's okay to concentrate on ourselves. It's important that you be in good shape so that you take care of others around you. Sometimes it's okay to be selfish and take that time for yourself. It's really not being selfish. I think it's as a whole, you're really helping yourself and others by dedicating like half an hour of your personal time for exercise. I do this. There are periods of life, right? Life is never perfect. There are ups and downs, and it happens, when there's a lot of stress is going on, you just go home, you lay down on the couch, you watch TV, something else is going on in your mind, and you don't want to get up. You don't want to get out. You don't want to mingle with your friends. You don't want to go for a walk. The weather is so beautiful. Enjoy life. Enjoy these little things, the calming effect this nature has, this environment has. So we forget about all those things. So stress is related to all other disease states, your mental state, and sometimes, my patients come to the clinic and they say that, oh, my head hurts, my heart, my chest hurts, I'm having some, my bowel habits have changed, and I don't feel good. I feel very tired. I don't have the energy. And I do $1 million testing, like all the blood tests, all the different kinds of stress tests, echo, scans. I'm not able to see a thing. So what's happening? The mind cannot tell that I'm suffering. It sends signals to the body, and it's called a somatic manifestation, or the body is manifesting what the pain that the mind is going through or the brain is going through. It's just not the medicines sometimes. It's being aware that stress, I'm upfront at that time. I'm like, I've done all the testing. I think we need to concentrate on kind of really finding what's really bothering you and being mindful of that. It's very easy not to, pay attention to our stressors. It's easy to kind of say that, oh, it's life, it happens, but no, it's very important that we identify stress. We sometimes don't realize how important it is to kind of understand what's going on around us is affecting us big time, mentally and physically. So everything is connected. So just to kind of give a background, I'm sure, every single person sitting here has a family member, a friend, or yourself has heart disease, right? I think each and every one of us would say yes. Heart disease is the number one killer in the US and in the world. Every 40 seconds, there is somebody out there having a heart attack. The bad part is 80% of this heart disease could be prevented. So there's a big component of prevention that we are missing, or I should say, in a way, look at the positive side of it. There is so much work we can do, or raise awareness like today, so that heart disease, people don't become victims of heart disease. That is, and sometimes no matter what you do, things happen, but that's a small chunk. There's a small chunk. Majority of the patients, it could be prevented. Prevention is better than cure, right? So, and as Mr. Vance said, no matter what age, see, these things don't happen just overnight, right? Keeps building. And when does it start? I would say turn our attention to our kids or your grandkids. Healthy lifestyle should start from the beginning because it should become part of your life. Third decade, fourth decade, we start seeing changes. Hypertension. So many of our patients come to the clinic and the heart is already failed. And the reason is because high blood pressure. People simply did not know. See, they did not know that they have high blood pressure. They've been having this has been brewing. There's always a stage called pre-diabetes, or before hypertension, there's a pre-hypertension. It's very important you start going to the doctor every 6 months. Just get your blood pressure checked. In the routine, I'm so glad I saw a blood pressure cuff there and somebody was measuring the blood pressure. Very simple things. I think there was I recently, I was reading something, insurance companies, sometimes they incentivize these community blood pressure screenings like free of cost because it prevents future badness. Third decade, fourth decade, you could be in your 30s, you could be running a marathon. Go to your physician every 6 months, get your blood pressure checked, get your labs done at least once a year, and there are things that you can do to kind of see if there is pre-diabetes or high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So a lot of things. So 80% of it can be prevented. So let's focus on that prevention. What you can do is, if you yourself or your friend or your children, motivate them to go to the doctor. I mean, it doesn't, once a year, half an hour, right? And, maybe that could be your Father's Day gift, Mother's Day gift, right? Motivate others. I cannot stress the importance how Mr. Vance and Mary, Mrs. Mary Vance has been his pillar of strength, and only teamwork has made it all come together. When people are going through their stressful situation, having that team member, that it could be a friend, it could be a family member, it means a lot to them. It could be something simple. It could be very simple, something simple in your mind, but that has a great impact on the overall care of our patients. So be that person, be that friend, be that family member, supporting another fellow member of the society in getting the health screened, or simply, encouraging them to go to a doctor. Has huge implications. As I said, it is just not, it's actually a lot of research has been done on this. They've actually done scans to kind of see when people are stressed, how is the brain activity? As you can see there in the arrows, the brain activity actually when they're stressed, it increases. And it's been very, very well studied. They actually ask questionnaire, people who have a lot of stress, people who don't have stress. People who have a lot of stress, over the years when they follow them, as I said, it builds, keeps building. So when they follow them up, they are at risk of all other diseases. It may be heart disease, cancer, name it. As I said, identify the source of stress. I'm guilty as well. Sometimes I keep doing things, I feel tired, and I don't know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Pause. Take a moment. Kind of analyze what's going on in your life. What is really bothering me? There's a lot of stressors, right? I mean, work-related stress, right? I mean, like a bad boss, bad co-workers. I mean, you cannot change what goes on outside, right? You cannot change what goes on outside. The only thing that you can change is what goes on inside. I'm going to say this. Winston Churchill, he said once, he says, when I look back on all those worries, I remember the story of the old man who said on his deathbed, they say that, right? People who are dying never lie. I had a lot of trouble in my life. Most of which never happened. Right? So it's very important that, stressing this, everyone has stress in life. You think that, it's a Hollywood star. Life is easy for them. They have money, this and that. But no. It's, to get up there, the competition, every single person, you think that they have a successful life, they have everything. They may have a lot of money, but peace of mind, that is an art, actually. That's an art. You have to work at it. You have to work at being peaceful inside you. And actually, it's not that hard to achieve as long as you train your mind, seek counseling, or, there are a lot of tools available out there to make it happen. But it takes work. It doesn't happen. If you're one of those persons like Mr. Vance, I really appreciate, I'm not saying this for the sake of saying, he always, when he comes to clinic, I look forward to the clinic visit. I think, Kathy and I, we laugh, and I think he's one of those very few patients where we really have a lot of fun just interacting, And I remember, it has not been easy for Mr. Vance. There were a lot of, and as he shared, a lot of ups and downs, and we're dealing with a lot of life, like a really very seriously ill patients. We have a lot of drama in our world, not quite like Grey's Anatomy, but something close, I would say sometimes. But Mr. Vance, even when I had to tell him that we have to let you go home because of this COVID, we don't know what's going on, we had the heart available, and I had to let him go. But the thing that strikes me is even when we told him that news, he wasn't like crying. I know he was disappointed. It is natural to be disappointed. But he processed it, and he was cool and calm about it. And he was always thinking about the next steps. I think that has gotten him through this. There are not many 70 plus years old who get heart transplant. And you have seen him, who has done so very well. And I give his example to a lot of patients. And that is only possible because he's calm inside. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to troubleshoot. Yes, there are challenges in life. Absolutely. All of us have it. But how to, logical thinking. Yes, I have a problem. What can I do? And I think he's a living example of how managing stress, how kind of keeping life in perspective, and believing the forces. Whatever your faith is, and I think that is what gets you through life. So it's important you recognize stress, you manage stress, because this helps all other things in life. As I already said, there's a big difference between increased stress and increased perception of stress. Do you agree? Yeah. It's an art. Again, it's an art. I'm working on it. And I think as we work on it, it becomes our life. It becomes a habit. So I'm going to have Kathy talk a little bit more on this, But how do we overcome stress, right? Simple things can help big time. Again, taking time for yourself. Exercise. What's the guideline for exercise? If you want, a lot of my patients ask, how much you want me to exercise? I tell them, according to the guidelines, you have to work 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. What is it? 150 minutes. You can do like 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or you want to do 60 minutes and, whatever you can do, 120 minutes, 60 minutes, 1 hour one day, 60 minutes another day, and then another 30 minutes. So that's some perspective as to how much you have to exercise. What is moderate intensity? On a treadmill. At a, not like strolling, at a decent pace, not like really a fast pace uphill, but at a decent pace. And that should be your goal, at least 30 minutes. The weather is nice outside, go outside and walk. Wintertime, buy a bicycle or a treadmill, or just go to a mall and walk, or even inside the house. Exercise. And then social media and, too much of computer, TV time, restrict that. I think when my patients ask them, I tell them, enjoy your life, because we are dealing with chronic conditions. It's life. I'm going to tell patients to enjoy life, but moderation is the key. Moderation is the key. If you want to have that donut, go have it, but take a small piece of it. You want to go out and have that salty meal, I'm okay with you doing it once a week, but control your portion size. Control your portion size. It's enjoy, but not indulge in it. When you take that control away, that's when you end up in trouble. Moderation is what I always advise my patients. I think I'm probably not very conventional. I'm like, it's okay to cheat once in a while, and we come up with strategies, because that's the only way you can keep at it in the long run. Sleeping. I have patients who don't sleep well at night, and then it's a cycle. They sleep during the daytime. It's called as sleep hygiene. Sleep is very important. You don't sleep, you don't feel good the next day, right? Stress can affect your sleep. Maintaining a sleep hygiene, avoid alcohol at night, and maintain a sleep schedule. Make sure you go to bed on time. So these simple things, and going to a doctor and getting your blood pressure checked, making sure you're not diabetic, and working on your diet. Cut down on high carb, high refined sugar, like a lot of cookies and donuts, or even pop. A lot of my patients don't realize that pop is empty calories, is what we call. Like if somebody really wants to lose weight, you give away pop, you start losing weight. This one fact I would like to share: even if you lose 10% of your weight, okay, 10%, like for example, somebody's 200 pounds, you lose like 20 pounds, 10 to 20 pounds. I see such a big difference. I am not exaggerating, I'm not kidding, a big difference in how I can manage their blood pressure and diabetes. I had a patient who was on like 100 plus units of insulin, and this is a real story. 100 plus units of insulin. All he did was, I didn't have any other medications, and nowadays we have a lot of fancy medicines. I'm talking about 10 years back. We were running out of options for that patient. He was asking me, what can I do? And I'm like, you know what? Exercise your medicine. Keep walking. And he took it seriously. He lost the weight. And it came to a point that I had to take him off of all medicines. He lost a lot of weight. But I'm saying, yes, medicines help, but you working on it and you doing these simple things has a big impact. And I see that even if somebody loses 10 pounds, 15 pounds, my job becomes much easier. Okay? So I'm going to kind of stop here, and I'm going to have Kathy take over, because she really does the heavy lifting for me. She's the one who counsels, and she's really good with giving these practical tips which make a big difference in your care. And once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk here. And I'm very proud of Mr. Vance and Mary Vance. And I think And it's a blessing that we have known each other and we are part of your health and part of your life. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Kathy McDonald. I've been a nurse for almost 35 years, 26 of it in the cardiovascular critical care. That's where Mr. Vance went after his heart transplant, take care of heart transplant, open heart surgeries, things like that, and then the last 9 years as a heart transplant coordinator. And just to build on what Mr. Vance said and Dr. Rao, you know, a lot of things in our lives go on and we like to ignore things as human beings. We want to ignore symptoms. We may have been told we have high blood pressure or pre-diabetic, and it's a lot easier just to ignore those things and just go on with our lives because we're busy and we have things to do. But I want to say, in the years that I've been a nurse, I've seen a lot of people that come into the hospital needing open heart surgery, needing heart transplants because they've ignored things over the years or didn't recognize the symptoms. So I encourage, like Dr. Rao did, to see your family doctor. If you go to the doctor and they're treating you for blood pressure, diabetes, if the medicine isn't working for you, I've seen this time and again, people stop taking it. They won't call their doctor. They're like, oh, I don't like the side effects. I don't like how I'm feeling. But there's a lot of adjustments that can be made. And people don't want to bother their doctor. Well, don't worry about that. That's their job, okay? And you can call and talk to the nurse. Call the nurse and say, you know, hey, I need to speak to the nurse about what's going on with me. You can leave a message and they'll get back with you. It's very important to have follow-up and be compliant with your medications if you do have a problem. I like the blood pressure log that they have out here. Keeping track of your blood pressure at home is important. When you go to the doctor, a lot of times you're, you know, anxious or upset and your blood pressure may be high there, but you go home and you take your blood pressures and they're fine. Well, that's great. But sometimes they're not fine and they can cause problems in the long run. And, you know, a lot of people don't like going to the doctor, but I encourage too, especially when you start getting into your 30s and 40s, go to the doctor, you know, hit any of the health offerings in your community to check your blood pressure and check your blood sugars. There's a lot of that's open to people for that. There's a lot of help for medications. There's a lot of sources to help you pay for medications and to get the things that you need to make yourself healthy. And talking about being healthy, Dr. Rao hit on exercising and stuff, and it's really nice to have somebody with you. So at work, the other heart transplant coordinators and I walk on our lunch break. And I'm the cheerleader. I'm like, what time we walking? Who's going? You know, I'm like, let's go, because we need to walk every day that we can. And so they're like, oh, here comes Kathy. She's going to want to walk. But, you know, it's just, it makes a big difference, and it makes a big difference in how we feel and our outlook with those stress hormones, the hormones that you get when you exercise. Just walking really, really help everything. So, you know, I just want to encourage everybody to, you know, be aware of your health and your family. Like Dr. Rao said, our kids, if they'll listen to you. I have a son that I have a lot of trouble getting him to the doctor and watching his diet and exercising. We do our best. But other than that, anything else, Mr. Vance, that you would like us to?
Thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Rao or the harpoon?
Yes.
I was just wondering, are you seeing an increase of, you know, like heart disease or heart-related challenges with the younger generation?
I'll have to say, and Dr. Rao can support this, being a nurse for 34 years, when I first started in the cardiovascular critical care, a lot of our heart patients were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and, you know, 15, 20 years into it, we're seeing people in their 30s. Now we're seeing people in their 20s with significant heart disease. Do you agree?
I agree. I think the stress, I mean, yes, we are now that the fast-paced lifestyle has changed, but definitely it's becoming it's not related, you know, like an older age problem now. More and more younger people, we are seeing it. We are seeing
and a lot of it's our diet, and don't get me started on fast food and sodas. It's just all bad.
Sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah, and sedentary lifestyle.
Our next speaker is one of our own St. John's homegrown people, and so proud of her, Dr. Natasha Hayes. I mean, she's been here last year, and a lot of people wanted her back, so I asked her to come back, and she said, okay. So, Dr. Hayes, you can come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right. I'm getting older now, so I have to wear glasses. It is always a pleasure to be able to come and give these talks in any capacity. I'm always thankful. I don't take it lightly, and I don't take it for granted. I think that it is a gift that the Lord has placed upon me, and I'm thankful for this opportunity. So my name is Dr. Hayes. You all know me as a member of St. John's Church. I've been going here all my life, or most of it, actually all of it, yeah. And I am an internal medicine physician. Okay, so I practice here in the city, and of late, the Lord has been directing my practice in a whole nother direction, so it's extremely exciting for me. That news is to come later on, sometime later. On my free time, I do a lot of keynote speaking around the city to our underprivileged students, our IPS kids, and even some of the township schools too, but I really focus on the underserved areas. And just to be frank with you, I speak to the Black kids very closely, and I try to connect with them about pursuing careers, professional degrees and professional careers. And the reason why I mention that is because any platform that I'm given, I've been told by God, always bring that up. We need more Blacks in medicine. We need more brown faces, Black and brown faces, okay? All right, so let's get into it. I was asked to speak about stress. As an internal medicine doctor, I see a lot of this coming through my door, and it presents in various ways. And it's always a challenge for me to sometimes get to the bottom of it, because unfortunately, we don't get training in how to be patients. We just kind of show up and hope that our doctors understand what we're going through. All right. Yeah, I'll just look at it from here. Of today's talk. And this is very important because I'm going to take a different approach. I think Dr. Rao did an awesome job with speaking about some of the systemic manifestations of stress. So it's amazing how God works. I don't have to do that now. And I can focus on what I believe you guys can really take home and really use to your benefit as you approach taking care of yourself and meeting with your doctors in the future. So what is the objective? I want you to, or I want to try to convey to you, understand why the effects of stress can be difficult to recognize. Why the effects of stress can be difficult to recognize. And how effective communication with your physician can increase the recognition of mental illness. Okay? So let's just get into some quick stats here. And this is up to date. This is per this new year, 2023. Approximately 280 million people in the world have depression. Depression is about 50% more common among women than in men. I think that's very interesting. More than 700,000 people die due to suicide every year. Does that surprise anyone, these stats? Does it not surprise anyone? Not me, I heard that somewhere. It doesn't surprise me anymore. And that makes me pretty sad. Now, this is where the rest of my presentation kind of takes off, and I'm going to hone in on this area. More than 75% of people in low and middle income countries receive no treatment for their mental illness. So then somebody yelled out over here, why is that? Right, thank you. We have all heard about social stigma. And I remember I did a talk before and someone said, that doesn't exist anymore. We talk about this now. And I said, really? It still exists, guys. There is social stigma surrounding mental health in our community, unfortunately. Lack of investment in mental health care. But here's the part right here. Poor communication between patient and provider. And why is that communication poor? And so this is based on my experience with my patients and my conversations. They say they're not comfortable. They haven't been comfortable when they go to the doctor. How many people here are comfortable when they go to the doctor? You are prepared, you are ready, you walk in there and you're like, let's get this thing going. No one's looking at you, just raise your hand. I can see you, but no one else is paying any attention. Well, that's good. How many are uncomfortable, a little nervous, heart palpitations, racing heart? And that's okay too. How many people have ever felt nervous going to the doctor? Yeah. Sorry guys, I didn't move the slide. Okay, so we're gonna go back, I'm gonna go back right here to this goal. Everyone read it one time. So why the effects of stress are difficult to recognize, and how can effective communication with your physician increase the recognition of mental illness? Keep that tucked away. Here we go. All right, everybody in here has completed medical school. You're all doctors now. You've completed medical school, you've done your post-training, and now you're ready to practice. And this is your first day on the job. And this is the patient that walks in to see you. Okay? And because of HIPAA, I won't put the patient's name, but her name is, I just haven't been feeling like myself, guys. Or doctor. That's her name. So this is a 45-year-old female. She has no past medical history. At least she's not bringing any records with her. So that's what we know so far. And she just says, hey, listen, my belly's been hurting. I've been having occasional loose stools. I've been nauseous. I have this unexplained weight loss. I'm tired all the time, doc. I have low energy. My sleep is off. My sleep hygiene is ridiculous. I wake up sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning and can't get back to bed. Other times I just sleep all day and I can't get out of bed. And she's married and she also has decreased libido. So things just aren't really going well for her. All right, docs, what you gonna do? So let's take a few seconds, and I want everyone to, you can talk to your partner, whoever's sitting next to you, I don't mind. Just try to figure out just a few ideas of what might be going on with this patient. Talk amongst yourselves. Just think about it. If you're in the medical field, that's great. If you're not, that's okay. Okay. All right. You guys got some ideas? Now, of course, this presentation is about stress. So let's try to think outside the box a little bit. So I'm going to ask for some volunteers, and there's no wrong answer. Yes, what do you think is going on?
Well, I really don't know what's going on yet, but I'm guessing since I'm an expert down in the field, I would sit down and talk to them and try to find out if there's anything psychological going on in their life that may be affecting what's going on. And if I can't tell anything then, you might have to take it through a battery of tests, see if there's anything really physical wrong with them. That's my expertise, and then I have experience being a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're a doctor now. So, right? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When you, it doesn't matter if it's your first day on the job. First of all, that's awesome. Your response was great. It doesn't matter if it's your first day on the job or the last day. When your patient comes in, the game has begun, and they're ready for answers. So you're absolutely right. First day on the job, that's your answer. Can I get any more? Yes.
I was sharing with my sisters here that, it's a lot going on today. And so it could be economics, it could be, you got shootings at schools, you got your kids, you got, it could be communication with a husband. So it's a lot of stuff going on. So, so it's just an opportunity to have she's communicating with him, so it's now time for him to really communicate with her and just try to lay everything out. 15 minutes might not be enough to try to really figure out what's going on. That's all.
That was very, very good. Very good. And a lot of points you brought up there that we're going to actually hit on later. So you're right on.
I work that medical degree.
You're working it. That's really good. That's really, really good. So I think from both of our gentlemen here, we've got some responses that are centered around social issues and concerns. Is there anything? So in medicine, we break things up, right? We have our mental and we have our medical, chronic, physical, acute issues, okay? And then, unfortunately, we try to merge the two, but we don't do a good job at it. Can anyone bring up any medical ideas? And I know you can, right? Absolutely. Well, okay, so, and if you don't, I know you know. Why did you say that? That is awesome.
Because she's tired and sluggish. That was the main reason. Also, she could be experiencing, hopefully not, but some cancer.
Absolutely. 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 Okay, I'm going to take one more because this helps build my case. So that's why I'm spending time right here. Ms. Rouse.
Based on what the patient has said, I'm detecting a lot of depression here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one doctor said, with all the issues that's going on around us, she's down in the dumps because of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these are all great. All great. Yes.
There was one other one part I can't speak, but she mentioned thyroid.
Oh, yes. And whoever said that is obviously in the medical field because you don't get that just by not knowing, that's good. Thyroid. All right, I'm going to move on in the interest of time. That's all very, very good. All right, so when you go to the doctor and you tell them that you've got all these different things going on, I can guarantee you're not going to leave that day without getting stuck in the arm and going through the meal, okay? So here you go. What does your doctor do? They do what we call a metabolic workup, okay? So they're going to check the thyroid, the liver function. They're going to check the kidney function, okay? They're going to screen for diabetes. They're going to make sure your electrolytes are okay. They're going to also check your blood count. They're going to do all this stuff. So you're going to leave depleted because they're going to draw some blood. And depending on the doctor and depending on how you present this case, They may even do a few more labs, but those labs you're definitely going to get on that visit. All right, Dr. Rao alluded to this. You get all this stuff done, you're anxiously waiting, you go home, the patient goes home, and she just can't wait for her 2-week follow-up because she knows that something's gonna come back wrong, and then she can say, hallelujah, something's wrong with me, I'm not crazy, and then her results come back. Normal. Jeez Louise. What would you feel? I just want one person to just yell out, what would you feel in this moment? 1 or 2 people, I don't really mind. Defeated, absolutely. One more thing. I want to hear another emotion. Relief, oh, that's a good one too. Maybe relief. Maybe relief and defeated. Concern? Yeah, absolutely. So, the patient comes back to the office, and now we're a few weeks out, and she says, listen, doc, I'm not criticizing your work, but I am not getting better. Now my appetite's decreased. I'm extremely irritable. My poor kids and children are really suffering because I'm just giving them the blues. I have severe migraines now, didn't have that before. I can't concentrate, and I'm afraid that I might lose my job because my job requires for me to be on top of it. And I also have this new thing. My movement is slowed, and my speech is changing. It's kind of slowed too. And then the doctor goes back and looks over the charts. You're the doctor, and you notice that the blood pressure has remained elevated for the past few visits. All right, the good doctor that you are, and I will say I don't agree with this decision that you did, but this is what you did. You did something that myself and my colleagues, we've coined a name, we call it the referral central. You've placed all of these referrals to this patient. They have a neurology referral for the headaches and confusion. They have a gastroenterology referral for the belly pain, the nausea and vomiting and all of that. They have a cardiology consult or referral for the elevated heart rate and pressure. And they have an endocrinology referral now for the fatigue and all of those other symptoms associated with the endocrine system. Can anyone tell me how you would feel if you went to the office and got something like this back from your doctor? This was the response?
Well, you'd be confused for one, because you wouldn't know what to think.
Well, I'll tell you now, I would be concerned, right? Because now I have to try to figure out, in my already hectic schedule, how am I going to get to all these appointments? Okay, that's for sure, okay? So now this is what we call the disgruntled patient. And this is what they look like. Maybe some of you have looked like this before. So all the results from the specialist come back normal. And the patient was told to follow back up with her PCP. What's going on? And how can we prevent this chain of events from happening? How can we do this? As physicians, I have an idea, but as patients, how can we step in and take care of our health and have an understanding of our health to prevent something like this from happening to us? So, what's going on? And I'm so happy that you guys gave me all of those answers earlier on, because this is the information that was left out of the visit. And I want to give a caveat. This is a real patient. This patient was seen by an outside group, outside of my group, and then was so upset that they left, and then I received this patient. And so the information that was left out on all of those previous visits are as follows. Her mother recently passed away. Her 18-year-old daughter recently returned home from college pregnant. Her husband's job is undergoing massive layoffs. And she spends most of her time worrying about the welfare of her children, her unborn grandchildren, her health, finances, and retirement. So you guys were right on it. I tried to throw you a curveball there. And it certainly could have been those other medical conditions. And it still can be. But there's a critical piece here that was missing from all of those visits. And that was something that in medicine we call social history. And unfortunately, that gets left out of a lot of those conversations that we're having in those doctors' offices. And it's not anyone's fault per se. I want to put this out there. But we have to be in control of our health. And we have to be in control of presenting that information so that it's not lost and so that time isn't wasted doing all these other things when we can certainly be getting our time spent well in that first or maybe second office visit. So what was the diagnosis? Depression and anxiety. Okay? That's what happened there. So I just want to do a recap. This was a patient that came to the office, new to you, was experiencing all these things for several months, abdominal pain, nausea, all that. Saw her doctor, had workup done, workup normal, was sent to various different specialists to be treated and tested. Everything came back normal. Decided to see another doctor, and then things started to come together for this patient. What a tragedy. But it did not end bad for the patient because she was able to go on medication once that diagnosis was given. And she also went through therapy. And she's doing very well now. And the grandbaby is as well. And that's what she looks like. But that's not her. But she smiles when she comes into the office. So, again, I am grateful for the lineup, and I do believe that was God's plan, because what Dr. Rao hit on is something that I don't have to spend much time on here, but it's the good takeaway point from today. Remember, there were 2 points. Why does mental illness get lost in translation? And how can we effectively communicate so that it doesn't get lost? So why does it get lost? Well, stress affects various different parts of our body. Okay? And in one person it may present this way, and in another it may present another way. And so this picture I absolutely like because it's not filled with a lot of medical jargon. It's straight to the point, and I think anyone can understand it. You see all of these different systems. Head is central nervous system. Heart is cardiovascular. What happens with our head when we're depressed or anxious? We can become confused. Our memory we're not as sharp as we usually are. What can happen to our heart? We can suffer from things like palpitations or rapid heartbeat, elevated blood pressure, even elevated cholesterol. What? Yes, your cholesterol can even be elevated as a result of stress. And so I have a question. What would be the challenge to the doctor if you were treating them for high cholesterol, something we call hyperlipidemia, and you didn't know about all of these stressors that are going on in their life, and their blood pressure, their cholesterol levels continue to rise? What would be the challenge there? What challenge would that be for you as the doctor?
You would have a complete picture to, properly diagnose.
That's it right there, the complete picture. So what happens a lot of times in medicine is we will write in the note, unfortunately you'll see it in the note sometimes, it'll say patient non-compliant, patient not taking medication. And so that gets passed on, that stays in your chart and that gets passed on. The reason why their heart rate and their diabetes and all of this isn't controlled is because the patient is just not taking their meds. They're not taking this thing serious. Now, does that happen? Absolutely. But there are a lot of times I've found that there's a whole nother side to this patient that's not being addressed, and that stress is not being controlled. And as a result, all these other issues aren't being controlled either. Any questions about that? Because I think that's pretty big.
What if they are taking meds and their numbers are still elevated?
So he said, what if they are taking their meds and their numbers are still elevated? Well, here's the thing. This conversation is focused on if the stress is not addressed. Now, let's say this doctor comes into the room and they're on top of it, the patient's providing that information, and the stress and all of that is being treated, the mental illness is being treated, but yet let's say their blood sugar continues to rise. Well, that doctor is then tuned in to the fact that I have treated all of these other extra factors that could be causing this. I need to maybe focus in on these medical conditions, okay? Because, and that's the thing, it's the whole picture. We are a whole being. It's not this or this, it's looking at everything. So that's why we're not just looking at mental health and then looking at the kidneys. We're looking at it all together, and how do they relate, okay? Does that answer your question? Yes.
So what about issues with addiction and how that can play a role in our body is affected?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So many, many things can happen with addiction. And from the standpoint of staying on the topic we have here, because I could go down a rabbit hole there, but a lot of times what we see with patients that have substance abuse problems, and I'll use our stimulants like cocaine, for example, that blurs the picture tremendously. And I will give you an example, but I want to be mindful of the time. But this will help your question. In a patient that is chronically, let's say, using a substance such as cocaine, which we call stimulant or stimulating drugs, high stimulating drugs, that affects the cardiovascular system tremendously. If this patient does not inform their providers that they are also substance users, and what patients do that? No one does that. That can be very damaging to that patient because it alters what medications you can use. It alters how you communicate with them about other social issues and things you may be missing. And it alters how the body responds to meds and how the body responds to hormones that are released. So substance abuse, and when you said addiction, I'm assuming you're referring to substance abuse. Substance abuse turns the whole thing, alters the entire thing of how you approach this patient. And that's a really good question, because how do we dig into finding out if someone is suffering from substance abuse? Social history.
When you take the lab work, you don't check for that?
So I won't go into the details, but state law plays a role there. And only under certain conditions would we be prompted to order and test for different types of substances in the system. But no, general labs, no, we don't just order those kind of labs in a general clinical setting. Okay? All right. Oh, did I? Oh. Huh. So here we go. Communication is key. Someone said this earlier. Hey, you've only got about 15 to 20 minutes in these office visits, okay? Let's just be honest here. And that's not going to change. And I'm going to tell you now, it's getting worse. The numbers are actually going to go down, okay? I'm in meetings about this. By the time you get into the clinic, you've seen the front desk, that has eaten into about 5 minutes of your time. When you get past the weighing station and all of that, that's another 5 minutes of your time. When you get into the room, that's another 5 to 6 minutes of your time, just going over your meds and all of that. When the doctor comes in, you've got about maybe 10 minutes to get all this out. Has anyone experienced that? So you're a bit rushed, and you may not be able to get all that information out. And you may leave a little bit frustrated because you weren't able to get that information out. And you may not be able to get that next appointment for another 3 to 4 months out. So what do? All right. This is something that I want everyone to put your phones down, your pens down, your eyes open, your ears open. Because this is something that I pass on to every single one of my patients, my friends, my family members. And I think that it's applicable to everyone. I even use it for myself. This is how you get the most out of your visit so that these issues aren't missed. And, oh, she left. Mrs. Graham said the whole picture can be received. All right, so here it is. You start a health journal. Raise your hand if you have a health journal or if you've heard about a health journal. Perfect. I love that. It actually warms my heart, and I'm being honest here and very transparent. The health journal is going to make your visit with your doctor all the more effective for you. This is how you do it. You start it today. You start it on Monday. You take self-inventory of what's going on with your body. You list any new reoccurring symptoms. Now, you see I have reoccurring, it should be occurring, I believe, symptoms. What does that mean? And this is very important. It's not, Friday night, I think I had a pain in my left thigh, but it never came back. I need to write that down. No. Then your journal will become just too messy to understand. So reoccurring means I notice that over the past several weeks to months, I've been experiencing this heaviness in my chest. I need to write this down. This is the next part. The next line says, when did the symptoms start? That is also very important because this is what's going to help your doctor form a timeline. The doctor may not be able to ask this in 10 minutes. Then, this is the other part. Identify any patterns that may be associated with the symptoms. So how do you do that? This is the self-inventory. I noticed that this pain or this heaviness in my chest only happens at night. It only happens after I eat this certain type of meal. It only happens when I'm extremely emotional and angry, when my daughter's not listening to me. Or it happens when I am thinking about certain experiences. Does everybody have that? This is key. And then the other thing is what makes it better and what makes it worse. What makes it better and what makes it worse? The next thing that you do on the journal, you put a space on there that says, how have you been? And this is where you just stop and you stand where you are and you just think. As silly as this sounds, trust me, this works. And you say, are there any new stressors in my life? How do I feel? Are there marital issues going on? Am I not connecting well with my spouse? Is that bothering me subconsciously? How are my children doing? How are they doing in school? Am I thinking about them subconsciously? Same for grandchildren. How's the job and how are your finances? Are you thinking about those things and not really aware of that? Are you the primary caretaker of your parents? Has anyone ever done that before? That is a lot of work. It's very stressful. You love them, but it's stressful. Sorry, that should have been showing while I was saying that. 5 minutes, right? Perfect. And this is the last thing that you put on there. And someone might say, what does that have to do with stress? Why are you talking about medications? Well, this is why. When you go to the doctor, you have so much faith in your doctor, and they have so much faith in you, and you believe that they know what you're taking, and they believe that they know what you're taking. No. When I say I'm up here being very honest, it's because I love all of you, and I want you to know that's not the case. Always know what meds you're taking. Know how often you're taking them. Know the strengths of your medication. That means the dosage. Is it 25 milligrams? Is it 50? The doctor may think that you're on 25, and they didn't change it in the system, and you're actually taking 50. Include vitamins and supplements. Dr. Hayes, should I put my vitamins on my list? Yes, you should. Because the vitamins can also have effects that we don't know. Thank you, Lord. Thyroid, please note this. Your thyroid medication can alter some of your labs. We have to know what you're taking. You can go down a whole rabbit hole of testing because your doctor wasn't aware of the fact that you were on a certain medication. And someone might say, why are you talking about this? This is why. Because there are side effects to meds. And if you are in tune to what meds you're taking, you can make associations between how do you feel when you take a certain medication. And you put that in the journal. You write that in the journal. I feel fine. I don't notice anything. After I take this med, I notice that my head hurts. Put that in the journal. Does that make sense to everybody? Is everybody following? Sorry, there's a delay in my clicking, but maybe you're supposed to hear me. So what does this do? This helps you be more prepared for the visit. This allows for all of those other things to not be missed so that your doctor can give you the diagnosis that is fitting to you and that time is not wasted. And this is what my chart looks like. Hey, I have a doctor. I take this to my doctor's office. It's either in my phone or it's a hard copy in my hand. Because I get nervous when I go to the doctor. And I may forget. When I'm nervous, I forget things. And so this holds me accountable. And so on this list, I have the doctor's name, the date. You guys probably can't see the writing. It's so fine. I picked the top 3 concerns that I have, the top 3. And I may only get to 2, so I do it in order of priority. And then I list what makes it better, what makes it worse, and so forth. And I'm pulling this information from my journal. So this is information that I've collected over the past few weeks. It's so beautiful how this comes together when it's done right. And so the rest of this is everything that it's all on this sheet of paper. It's all on this sheet of paper, okay? Okay, I have 2 minutes. So here's the thing. Did everyone understand that? For those of you that are already doing it, great. Hopefully you can maybe fine-tune it a little bit. If you're not doing it, trust me, you need to do it. It will save you. Actually, it will save you. It will save you. I just diagnosed a patient that has been sent all around Indianapolis for GI, that means gastroenterology, gastrointestinal symptoms. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, all this stuff. Nobody could figure it out. And let me tell you, I am not a genius. We just talked. And I ordered specific labs based on our conversation. The diagnosis was malignancy, cancer. But we were able to get that diagnosis, and we were able to treat this patient, and she's doing very well. Yeah, absolutely. That's God. That's God. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you take the time to do this for yourself, and I say this anytime I give a talk, I say take your health serious and take control of it, and do not think that you can just depend on the healthcare system or your doctor. Listen, things go amiss, documents get lost, things happen, okay? All right, so I have ran my course, and that's okay. I just want to say this one last thing about communication in the elderly. If anyone here is caring for someone that's elder, or a caretaker or something like that, as we're talking about communicating effectively with our doctors, here's the thing. The elderly, and so elderly has changed. We're not talking about 65. Our 65-year-olds are doing their thing. I'm talking about your sometimes 85, sometimes not, and up. They don't present the same way. So they don't communicate, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling fine. They don't communicate those things. And there's an overlap between symptoms. What 85-year-old do you know that's not experiencing slowness of movement, sleep and eating disorders, and memory loss? That could be depression, but it's masked because Mama always had these issues. Okay? And that's all that slide is saying. And I think that's everything. 2 Corinthians 9:11. God is in control, and God gives us everything that we need. This is my favorite verse of the Bible. Dr. Shob, I don't know if you're supposed to have a favorite verse of the Bible, but I have one, and this is it. And it's a blessing to know your gifts. It's a blessing to share them with people. When you share your blessings with people, you won't be depleted. He will always give it back to you. I hope this blessed you guys.
Thank you.
This is a huge effect on our community. My wife of 41 years just passed away December 5th of 2022. I had all my estate planning in place, but she did not. As a result, a lot of things that should belong to me are in probate right now. They should belong to me. And the doctor just said it. I don't know if it was every 40 minutes or every 40 seconds, somebody has a heart attack and passes away. So if you've got a loved one passing away and you're grieving, that's stressful. But knowing and having your house in order and what they expected and what you wanted them to do releases stress. So this is part of what we can do by having this plan in place. St. John's actually carries this as an employee benefit for their employees, so I'm proud to offer that with them. I got Tyrone Harris with me and Mr. Tony Burrell. They're part of our team that makes that happen. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to let you know that we do have a table out there. If you do not have your estate planning done, it is done free under this service through a monthly plan that we pay. And I want to encourage you to at least come by the table and get a card and get some information, and we can follow up with you on another day to get this done. Since my wife died on December 5th, our team made a commitment to help 100 people get their wills done, and we're up to like 68 people now that we have helped get their estate planning in order. I know families right now that do not speak to each other anymore because a loved one passed away. So see us at the table. We'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to continue on. Right now, I would like to bring up to the podium Sandra Miner, who's going to present a presentation and show you another thing of health. You ready?
Good afternoon or morning. I've lost all track of time. It's still morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sandra Miner. As my brother said, I'm a retired nurse and a public health nurse. And I recently took a course, faith community nursing course. And as a part of that, I learned that the American Heart Association had a kit that teaches CPR that I didn't know about. And I got really excited about it when not when the situation happened with Damar Hamlin, but anyway, in tying in CPR. And I thought, boy, I need to tell everybody about this and just, let them know that they can learn CPR. So my presentation this morning is going to be on hands-only CPR, and it's also called anytime CPR. Everyone should know CPR to increase the chances of survival of a person who is experiencing a cardiac arrest. We all saw or heard what happened with Damar Hamlin, the NFL player, the fact that he had a cardiac arrest right on the field, the football field. And the thing that really helped him to survive was first, number one, because of the grace of God. We always give him the glory. But also because there were medical people there ready and willing and able to assist and give him CPR right then and there on the spot, and also give him his heart a shock with the defibrillator. And that's what helped to save his life. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. To let you know that the American Heart Association now has these kits available. They're called CPR Anytime kits. And the purpose of the kit is for you to learn how to do chest compressions in the comfort of your own home. And also to be able to share this with your family members, with your neighbors, with your friends, with everybody that you know. And in the kit comes what they call a mini Annie, which is a mannequin. And she clicks when you do the chest compressions. And also in the clip in the kit there's a DVD that goes through the techniques of administering CPR, and you can stop it at any time. It also has time for you to practice the CPR, and you can stop it and start it. Also in the kit there is a wipe to clean your mannequin. I'm sorry. There's a wipe to clean your mannequin. And the DVD also goes into how to handle CPR for a child. And with the child CPR, it includes rescue breathing. They don't recommend rescue breathing for the adult. And choking of an adult, choking of a child, and an AED demonstration. So it's very, very informative. The kits cost $45, and I have I don't know what they call those cue cards, those cue things. You can take your smartphone and put a QR code. If you want more information on how to order one for yourself, I have a QR code out there at my table that you can get that. And I also have a couple kits to give out. So. And for the purpose of today's presentation, I'm going to talk about the adult hands-only CPR and the use of the AED. Most people are afraid of performing CPR because they are afraid to make a mistake. The purpose of Anytime CPR is to teach people hands-only technique so that you become comfortable in performing it. This type of CPR does not require any certification or any testing. Studies have shown that any CPR, even if it's not perfect, is a person's best chance of surviving a cardiac arrest. Doing something is better than doing nothing. So, I don't want to get ahead of myself. This Annie has a clicker in it, and Dr. Hayes has graciously agreed to come up and demonstrate as I talk her through. Yes, as I talk her through how to do chest compressions on Annie, although she knows how. She's had experience with this. Either way, you guys let us know which side would be better for her, where you can see the mannequin better. Okay, first of all, she's going to place one heel of her hand in the center of Annie's chest.
Does it make a difference if it's the left or right hand?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Then she's going to take her other hand, the heel of her other hand, and place it on top of the hand that's down. And you see how she tightened? She put her fingers in between each one. Then you want to she's going to make sure that her elbows are kept straight. And then her arms are also kept straight. And then she's going to push the heel of her hands hard enough to make Annie's chest go down at least 2 inches. And she should hear a click, which she's not hearing the click yet, but she will. And it takes a minute. It took my son and my grandson, and you have to be right over it. No, the table is solid. Yeah.
Now, I saved it for people.
It took the strength of my son to get it to click, and then I was able to. But it does take a minute.
Do you want a man to try?
Let's have
Maybe one of the gentlemen.
Deacon Ellison, would you come up, please? Oh, well, she should be clicking. Make sure your arms are straight. Okay. And then put all your weight down. There it goes. You hear it? There it goes. Thank you, Deacon Ellison. And so another key is when Dr. Hayes pushes down, when she presses down, it comes back up. She comes back up. There she goes. So she comes back up, and and it's important to let that chest. Yes, she's got it. Okay. So just make sure that you allow the chest to come back up completely too, as well. You don't just push down and just keep pushing down. You want it to rise, the chest to rise again. She's going to stay directly over the chest, keeping both her arms straight, and she's going to push hard and fast. And you keep pushing until medical help arrives or until the person begins to respond. Now she's got it now. Okay. If anyone is with you, you can also trade off doing the compression so that you don't get tired. And the key is never stop pushing. That pushing mechanism pushes the blood flow through the body, just since the heart is not able to do that. 1 second, Deacon Lonnie. And it just keeps the blood circulating. Deacon Lonnie?
No, they don't do rescue breathing anymore?
They do for people who have been taught that, but for this purpose, they're saying just go ahead and do this, because the chest compressions are the most important. With the advent of COVID and when AIDS and all that, there are a lot of people that are kind of squeamish with rescue breathings. Now, those of us that are in the medical field, when we get CPR, we're taught how to do rescue breathing, but they just recommend you do chest compressions only until medical help arrives.
And that's basically because they'd rather you do something.
Right, than nothing at all. Yeah, do something. And Denise had a point too. Also, if you're at home and someone is suffering a cardiac arrest and they're on their bed, you don't want them on a soft surface. Make sure they're on a flat, hard surface, because see if you can get them to the floor or something. Because if they're soft and you're pressing, their whole body is just going to go down and it's not going to be as effective. Okay?
Saying, are they still teaching, like if you walk upon a situation and you check the pulse, first thing you do is check the pulse. If there's a pulse, then you don't do CPR.
For medical people, yes. But for the lay person, you walk up on a person who's unresponsive, what they want you to do is walk over to them and say, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? And then if they don't respond, you go ahead and start. well, call 911. So you direct someone to call 911 and then start chest compressions. Okay. Good point, Rose.
Is it still the rhythm though? I know when it was like staying alive.
Yes, yeah.
Is there a certain amount of minutes that go by that determine, I know that's why you said start right away, but it's like, is it 5 minutes that it's not the hardest starting in, the chances have diminished greatly, or 10 minutes or anything like that? You don't know the same.
I'm not real sure. Dr. Hayes, do you have any idea?
So typically, first of all, always continue to minutes arrive to the scene. As a layperson, we shouldn't be making that decision. But in the CCU, when we're compressing these patients, there's a whole schematic that we go through. In general sense, to answer your question, usually between 5 to 10 minutes of compression, sustained compression is usually patients don't typically go well.
Okay. And then next, I want to talk about the AED because that's important too. And our church does have AEDs here. Am I running out of time? Man. There's an AED located outside the nurse's office, and there's one upstairs in the church. And Maddie Fishback, who's not with us today, she monitors these AEDs and makes sure that the batteries are kept, are at the level that they should be. I wanted to show this to you, I can't, but anyway, the AED is really simple, and the purpose of the AED is most cardiac arrests are caused because there's an abnormal heart rhythm, and if a person can get a shock from the AED, sometimes that will put their heart back into normal rhythm, and they will revive them, they can be revived. And the AED, don't be afraid of it because it talks you through everything you need to do. The main thing is to know how to turn it on, and the pads even tell you where to place the pads on the person's chest. And it also, the AED analyzes the heart. It tells you when that person needs a shock. And the main thing is when you want to give the person a shock, the AED will tell you, make sure you aren't touching the person, clear, make sure everything is clear. So it's real simple and real easy. And people need to know where the AED is located here in the church so that if we do have someone who really needs it and somebody directs you to go get the AED and bring it to them, you'll know where it's located. So, as I said, there's one outside the nurse's station and one upstairs.
And there are signs up in the ceiling.
I'm sorry?
There's signs in the ceiling to direct you to the AED.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, probably don't have time for questions, but anyway, I'm gonna leave Annie here.
Any questions? I don't want my sister to say it. I might need her. She's been one of the people who helped me get through my heart transplant. You better let her talk. I appreciate it.
No problem.
There's a question in the back.
You gonna have names in the hat or something? For the items?
Just come back and talk to me. We'll see.
We got this question.
Dick Preston. No, I'm not. I'm not certified to give certificates, and well, you didn't ask that, but that's not the purpose today. It's just to tell you about the. Oh, okay. No, I'm not. I did just complete my certification though, but I can't teach it. So. Anybody? Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hayes.
Okay, moving right along, our last presenter, but not our last person to talk, is Paula Massey. She was here last year, and people wanted her back again. So I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself and go on from there. Ms. Massey.
Thank you guys for having me here. I do have some allergy stuff going on, but I'm here. Latasha, thank you. Where's Dr. Latasha? Thank you for opening up this segment. She spoke a lot about what I'm going to touch today and open everybody's minds up to how your physical and mental come together. I did put out some information on myself. I wanted you guys to know, like Latasha is using her time for the underserved population. I have chosen to remove the word minority and use marginalized population. Okay? I want us to understand that we are not minorities anymore. Minority mean minimum. We are not that. We are a group of people who is becoming and have allowed people to have us insignificant. And we need to understand that we have significance and we have numbers and we can make change. Okay? So that's why Dr. Latasha is working on the numbers at the right levels, because that's where we make change. So you guys could read up about me. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and we have talked about the marginalized populations that really don't get care for mental health. They are already suffering with their physical health. And if you understand Maslow's law, first you need to meet your needs before you meet everything else. And sometimes we don't get to the mental because we haven't met the need of food, shelter, clothing. Okay? So we are fortunate today that we could speak of mental health and take time and reflect, because people in other countries don't have that time and don't give themselves that time and make a focus on their mental health. Okay? Because it's already hard enough to focus on their physical health. So I wanted to touch, this is a little bit about what I'm going to touch on. Dr. Rao and Dr. Latasha have touched on some of these things about what is stress. I think we heard about a fight or flight, about fear. But I want to say, do I look fearful up here? Do I look like I'm going to fight or flight? But I have allergies. I have stress on my voice box. Does this look like stress? I want you to sit and think about that. That's why I'm here today. I could have called and say, I can't speak. My voice, I'm having problems, right? So I'll have to make a choice. I want you to sit and think about what's going on with my body while I stand here. When I got dressed and I woke up, when I still decided to be here, and then now when I'm standing here. Do you think that your body is going through stress? That's your question today. So these are just some of the risk factors that may drive you into what we'll call more chronic stress, because we all undergo stress. I want to say, even if you don't fall in these risk factors, you could easily fall into these factors. Okay? So when we look at the risk factors, this is for the people in the medical field. as we ask these questions, like Dr. Latasha said, we ask these social questions. And as we attain these answers, we see that there are risk factors that is in place that could lead to these things. Does it all mean, the question would be, do you need medicine? What are you using as your coping skills? And we'll get to that. So because you do have these risk factors, that doesn't mean that you will present yourself at a doctor and you'll get medicine, okay? So I want us to be careful, because I think most of us, we don't present ourselves and tell the truth because we think, oh, I'm just gonna get another med, right? We're trying to avoid it. If we say that we have stress, if we say we have depression, if we have anxiety, that means we're defeated. We are children of God. How could children of God have depression? How could children of God have anxiety, right? It's a lot of conflicts that we have, because we also have to understand we are human. And being human comes with a lot of imperfections. These are some statistics. 64% of people says they have stress at work. I meet a lot of people who love their job. Do they look like they fight or flight? But a lot of them going through stress. They still love their job. Dr. Latasha just said that you have 15 to 20 minutes at a doctor's office and you're gonna have less. So we have to see people and produce results in less time. Does that feel like stress? Because we are trying to get to our underserved people, and we're trying to educate them, but we don't have the time. We're trying to get the results. Where's the time? Okay? So we have to figure that out, because we will not be defeated. And your belief is what is going to give you solutions to how you develop the time that you need to give. And I think that what it also allows us to do is to form alliances, because with many people, you have more time. If you try to do it by yourself, let's see what happens. These are the statistics. I'm sorry. I have to keep up with the clicks. So we have different types of stress, and this is what I talked about earlier. We have acute stress. This stress is for a shorter period of time. It's short term. You're having a baby. You might say 10 months is not short term. Well, you're having a baby. You're excited, but you're still stressed. You're planning for a wedding. You might say that takes about a year. It's short term because you're more excited, anxious, but your body is still going through stress. And we'll talk about the good and the bad stress, because when we talk about stress, we always talk about it in a negative way, right? So we do need some stress. We need stress for resilience, right? We need stress to learn how to solve problems. So we need to be careful when we present in stress, how we present stress to others, how we present stress to our kids, right? We teach them time management. so that we could lessen stress in one area, right? Because we see our weaknesses and our strengths, and we want to be able to learn how to manage that stress. Now, we have stress on episodes, and this is where probably the workers are saying, 64% is saying we're stressed because we're presenting to do the same work in less time. And every year it's happening. And when COVID happened and we made the loss, it was a loss for the world. And so everybody is trying to retain and gain those profits from the time they made losses, right? That's capitalism. And so maybe that's where a lot of the workers, they're overloaded with responsibilities. They have to figure out their schedules. It's just not the same. Dr. Rao talked about the chronic stress, and that's where a lot of us remain. We get there and we remain there. And that's where our problem is. Okay? If we could get to these acute episodes, find solutions, and keep it low, then we're fine. The problem is we're not stepping back. We're not taking time for ourselves to see what the real issue is. This is some examples of unexpected events. We did talk about what the body does. We're not going to touch on that anymore. We feel tension. Our breathing is different. We get irritable. If we work around people who is behaving in certain ways, please exercise some forgiveness. Please wait till you feel they've had enough time to calm down, and then go speak to them and say what you're realizing. Sometimes a person haven't taken time to reflect and understand why they're behaving the way they're behaving. Sometimes we don't foster appropriate relationships to go to that person and say, I'm seeing a change in your behavior. I'm not liking that change. This is how it makes me feel, right? Because sometimes, even if it's your boss, we're human and we learn from each other. And I think that these are the times where we really want to exercise our forgiveness. Okay? So this is what I was talking about, the bad stress and the good stress. I want us to start with our kids and our grandkids. They are online all the time. They know all these words. Do not underestimate what they know, please. I think, like last night, somebody's asking me, my daughter is 18, when do I talk about sex? Like, okay, please. Let's start early. Let's ask God for wisdom. Let's ask the people who know what are the words I should use for a 10-year-old, right? Because maybe that's what you're probably deficient in. You're not deficient in educating. You may be a little deficient in the age group's level of how you should exercise the education. Okay? So this behavior is learned, you can learn it. Don't wait until the person becomes a teenager. By then you're overwhelmed. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of stress on making numbers. There's a lot of stress on being kicked out of school. It's too late. It's becoming too late. If you're not sure, like Dr. Latasha said, there's a My Chart. You're not sure. I'm not sure what I should do. But Doc, you know what? I would like you, but before I bring my child to you, can we discuss time management? It gives me time to call the social worker, right? Because we have social workers. Can we talk about sex? It gives me time to get a social worker on board and send back a message and say to you, this will happen on the day. After my appointment, you can meet with such and such, and you guys can have that conversation, okay? Maybe whatever religion, whatever you believe, we want to talk about sex. But Doc, you know what? I don't want my child to have sex before they're married, right? Put it ahead of time. The doctor don't have to believe what you believe. The doctor just needs to tell the social worker how you would like this presented, and then the social worker will also have a conversation with you to understand how you want this presented and why. Because we have to be fair to all people. Is a child, yes, but this is a child that's going to be out in society with other people, and you are not their friend. And so we have to learn how to present all these things, right? And make sure that we're not burdening our kids with some of our mishaps, right? With some of the things that we could have done better, because we do that. We burden them, okay, to be better when it's we need to be better, because they're looking at us. Okay? Again, we have the social worker. We'll extend that, get you more time. Okay? So if you do have that journal, sometimes you could go into the My Chart, send a message, you know, and do those things. So advocate for yourself, advocate for your children. Okay? So this is the response. As far as what the body is going through, the sugar is being released, cortisol. Some of us, we exercise all the time and we're not losing weight. Maybe we need to think about, are we stressed? What's going on? Because we're releasing, every time you're stressed, you're releasing these cortisol and adrenaline. It's like taking prednisone. You're taking prednisone every day, every time you're under a lot of stress. So you're working out and you're doing all these things and you say, what is going on? Why am I still irritable? Why am I still? It's because we still haven't control what is actually going on with us, okay? We're having headaches, we're worrying, impaired judgment. That's not the time to make decisions. We have a loss of confidence. It just looks different for each one of us. We need to understand how we deal with stress, how we undergo stress as an individual. And so that's what makes, like Dr. Latasha said, that's what makes it hard. I don't know what's going on with you. Because I can't say what happened to John is happening to Sue, right? Because John just said the same things, but that's not what's going on with you. When I said you were stressed or depressed, it's not the same way it showed up in Sue. And so, sometimes it's entertaining, because now you have to really shout out for wisdom. So I want to spend a little bit more time on the stress management and come back to me standing here, going through the struggle in my voice, projecting out to you, am I stressed? What do you think? Am I fight or flight? I'm actually happy to be here. But what is my body doing? I'm enlightened. I really wanted to be here, right? But what's going on with my body? If I try to use the bathroom, it's going to be hard. My body is saying, you're doing more than you should do, right? That's what it does. So it does have some stress. My mind is saying, this is a beautiful day to be here. And my mind is saying, I'm happy, I'm blessed, I'm appreciative to be alive. As I do that and I breathe slowly, I feel like my body is calming itself down. It's saying, maybe she's not that stressed. Okay? And so you have to reflect on that, get to know yourself, get to know how you deal with stress, and what you should do about your stress. So all these pipes that you're seeing on the side of your bucket, we all have a stress bucket. What do you do when your bucket is filling up? That's important to you. Who is here for me when my bucket is filling up? That's important to know. What do I like to listen to? What kind of music? What kind of food am I putting into my body? Is this appropriate? The last couple of days with my allergies, I couldn't ingest the same kind of food, right? I couldn't. Because if I love myself, I couldn't overwhelm my body with food. Okay? So now I had to check and sit and reflect and say, okay, let me bring out more times a day of having some lemons. Let me go to the beehive guy and get some honey. Okay, I couldn't do regular honey. This is allergy season. You gotta know yourself. Maybe I need to boil my cinnamon. It relieves stress. It brings down glucose level. So there's a lot of things to think about when we go through stress, because our immune system is what's helping us, and we need to help it. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you some things that you could do, and I'll bring out some vitamins. You still need to talk to your doctor, because if you want blood thinners, maybe some of the things you shouldn't be doing, right? So we need to be careful with what we do. I'm from the Caribbean, so it could become a little conflicting. So talk to your doctor. I want to say practicing gratitude is important. It will be on everything that I present. When you wake in the morning, and I like to say practice gratitude, if you need to get your word, if you need to say your prayer, and after all of that, you still need to say thank you. You need to go outside on a day like today, wake early and listen to the birds, take a walk, and see why you're different from everything else outside, why you're different from the person in your life, and be grateful that you are who you are. The reason that Brother Vance and who was the other heart transplant, they understood about gratitude. They understood on knowing the worth of their life. And when you understand those things, everything come into play. They understood that there's a greater power. They understood that that power needed to put them with the proper cardiologist. They understood to be patient. A lot of time we're stressed because we're not patient. Okay? We stress because we want things done today. The car broke down, so now I'm going to run and get another car to make a car payment, but I don't have the money because this must happen today. So we have to change some of these mindsets. We have to manage time effectively. If I work this amount of hours, if I work this amount of days, I could have this car in 6 months. We must get management, time and finance. A lot of us are stressed because we do not want to manage and sacrifice our financial abilities. Now, it seems simple, right? I'm making it simple. I know it's not simple. I know your numbers sometimes don't add up. But what are we going to do about it? Dr. Latasha is going out to the kids and saying, we need more doctors. When your child come home and say, I want to be a doctor, what's your plan? When your child come home and say, what's your plan? You need to make a plan. Because you're still trying to get a car. But can your child still be a doctor? Of course. So you need to know the how. You need to plan the when. It's time management, and that's why we need to teach the children that we're doing that. We don't just do it. We share with them what we are doing and sacrificing for them to attain these things. And then we call Dr. Latasha and say, hey, you know someone who could help us with this finance plan? Do you know someone who could help the child manage time and prepare them to be a doctor? Okay? Or anything else they want to be, but they have to get there because we are no longer minorities. We are non-significant people until we bring our people to where they need to be to let them understand that we are significant. And when I say that, that doesn't mean that your presence is insignificant, but we need to get to the place where we're going to demand attention of significance. That's where we need to be. And this 15, 20 minutes that we have in is going to mean something. How to present how you feel to the doctor in 15 minutes. We are no longer going to have that fear. We're no longer going to have that anxiety. When a patient walks in the room, a black patient walks in the room and they see me, I can see their whole shoulder just drop. Oh, somebody who's going to understand what I have to say. The only thing, I was just one step from crying when I see that behavior. One step to know that I could make a difference if it's just one person for that day. You need to understand what stress looks and feel like for you. stop going with all your friends and everybody saying they stressed. So who's going to be not stressed? Why are you always calling a friend that's stressed? So both of you will talk about stress. Do you want to talk with people all the time about your heart? How much stress you're going through? I know. Okay, or you want to be with people who's going to say, let's go for a walk, brother. Let's meditate. Okay? And upkeep the way that you're taking care of yourself. Lots of water. You need lots of water. You need to drink lots of water. And you need to take your vitamins. This is where the doctor comes in. We, as a people, are really low in vitamin D. And we need to check our vitamin D to see if that's causing any other issues with us, okay? Sometimes your fatigue and all of that stuff is because sometimes your vitamins are low. And so we need to check that because it gets depleted quickly because we're not eating the right foods and we don't get enough sun, okay? Because that's why we have melanin. You see, you don't understand your melanin. You don't appreciate it. Start to appreciate what you have. We're not getting enough sun to us. I did put a depression scale and an anxiety scale. I want to say, when you go see your primary care or you go to the clinics, they give you at least a depression scale. A lot of people take it for granted. Please don't do that. Please fill out your depression scale and be truthful. So I did put one in the back so that you could use that, you know, like when you're feeling down, when you're feeling however, and kind of use it to kind of gauge where you're at different points in your life, okay? I want to really press on therapy. If you do your depression scale, it's minimal, even with the moderate. Sometimes you have the tools, you just don't know how to use it. And sometimes the therapy or seeing someone will help you learn how to manage that in your head, on how to manage using those coping skills. You have it. You just need somebody to encourage you to use the tools. You need a person to sometimes give you the confidence that you have the tools. One more thing on negative thoughts, on stress. It's a 90-second rule. The problem that's affecting you can only take 90 seconds. All the adrenaline and cortisol and all these fight and fight response is going to take 90 seconds. It doesn't feel like it. It's 90 seconds. After that 90 seconds, it's up to you what happens next. Do you play over the stressful situation? Do you find a solution if it's not appropriate? If you stand up and you stretch, if you walk away and you walk, there's no way that your body could hold on to that event at that time. You have 90 seconds and a choice. I need you to go home and practice it. I need you to tell your kids. All the kids are becoming overwhelmed. They're all bored. They're all overwhelmed. So I need you to go home. I need you to get on YouTube, learn this 90-second rule, and I need you to present it to your kids. You have 90 seconds to tell me this problem. That's it. After this 90 seconds, you have two things you do. You come up with a solution, or now you develop a coping skill that's going to allow you to appreciate what else is going on in your life. That's the two things they get. they do not get to replay the issue. After they complete it and got the solution, and you're progressing to the solution, you could revisit. If this happens again, do you think this have worked? You could revisit evaluating the process.
I
Okay?
appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hate to cut you.
No, you're good. That's my last.
Any questions for All right. Our last person, it's something I always wanted to do when I started with this, is give testimonies.
Yes.
I always start off with mine. Over this past year, another one came to mind, and Beverly Brown had a transplant, and she's been going through for years, and finally got it. So I would like her to come, and her husband to come, Dr. Tommy Brown. I wonder who's the caregiver here. But could y'all come on and close it up? Well, change, she's standing there.
You all pray for him.
Please, please, please.
Good morning. I am Beverly Brown, and I am a recipient of the gift of life. I had a kidney transplant, and I'm also the wife of Dr. Thomas Brown, who is my caregiver and my best friend. Thank you for this invitation to share my kidney transplant journey. My purpose this morning is to help you recognize kidney disease and the signs of this silent killer. There's a lot of information to share in 10 minutes. My husband corrected me and said I only had 8 because he has the other 2. So I'll make this quick. Some highlights of kidney disease. Kidney disease is the fastest growing non-contagious disease in the United States, with 37 million Americans living with it, and most of the 37 million are unaware that they have it. I gained a lot of information this morning just listening to the other speakers talk about different health issues and different things that we should do to encourage and to help us to be an advocate for our own health. One of the things that stuck with me was the health journey that the doctor talked about. That was so important in my kidney journey to have a health journal, because I had many doctor's appointments, and of course I couldn't remember everything, so being able to jot it down and talk to the many doctors that I had helped me to advocate for my own health. My health journal was in a 3-by, what's that, baby? File box, yes. And I added to it each time I experienced something. In fact, this past week, I have a kidney transplant coordinator. Now, everybody does not have that. Because I'm a transplant recipient, I was given that. But my transplant coordinator, I can call anytime to discuss anything with her. And some of us are not able to do that. So that's why it's so important that we advocate for our own health, because of the time limit that the doctor says that we have, and that's so true. If I don't remember to take my health journal with me, when I leave that doctor's office, I have 99 questions that I should have asked that I didn't, that would have been in my health journal. So it's so important to do that. One of the other things, too, that was said by one of the speakers is to be compliant. I think the reason that I was able to get a kidney transplant at 77 years old was because I was compliant. I did everything the doctor said. I didn't use my own judgment a lot. I listened to my doctor. If I felt that it was something that I wasn't comfortable with, I talked to my doctor about it. Sometimes I think that we listen to so many people tell us about what's going on with our health that we fail to realize that the doctors are the ones that know, what's going on. Let me tell you just a little bit about me. My primary care doctor was aware of my kidney disease, and he referred me to a nephrologist. And a nephrologist is a medical doctor diagnosing and treating kidney conditions. My nephrologist treated me specifically for kidney disease for about 2 years, and my numbers didn't improve. She told me my kidneys weren't getting any better, and we needed to think about dialysis. Well, I was devastated at the thought of dialysis. It was something that I thought I would never have to face. My mother had diabetes, and she had it for 30 years. My father had a quadruple heart operation. So I thought that I would be in between diabetes and heart. I never, ever thought that I would have a kidney disease. I had been treated and was on medication for high blood pressure for several years. Little did I know, high blood pressure is a major cause of kidney disease. I was still trying to come to grips with having to have dialysis. I had heard so many not so good stories about dialysis. No one in my family, in my immediate family, had had kidney disease. And so I kept thinking, why me? I started home dialysis, which is called peritoneal dialysis, on January 22nd. This dialysis was being done at home, which was a blessing for me. I did not want to go to the center. I did not have to go to the center, only because I didn't have any other underlying illnesses, such as cancer, heart disease, any diseases like that. I only had kidney disease. So sometimes I really believe that when you take care of yourself, we hear this, that we should take care of ourselves, we should follow up on what our doctors tell us. In my case, it was vital that I did that, because the only thing that I had was kidney disease. Once I started on peritoneal dialysis, my doctor said she thought that I was eligible for the cycler. Now, the cycler is also done at home. You don't have to go to a center to do it. But what it does is it cleans your blood with glucose. So it's not that they take the blood, they never took the blood out of me. They always used some kind of liquid or sugar water is what they called it, just to clean my system. So I never had to have, I think they call fisters. Yes, I never had to have that. They did everything through they had placed a tube in my stomach, and they did everything through that. So I was blessed with that. But I had to have approval to be able to do that, which goes back to I didn't have any life-threatening diseases. So, which says to me again, being compliant, doing what the doctor says early on, because you never know when that decision is going to have to be made, that you have to have a treatment that's going to help you and not put you in a situation where, you know, you're nervous, afraid, or whatever. Dr. Gill asked me a minute ago, and my mother's friend who lives in Atlanta, she said to me, how did you manage to go through a transplant? Well, first of all, I wanted to live. But secondly, at my age, I never thought that I was going to get a transplant, because people had said to me, doctors don't generally like to give a transplant to a 76-year-old. They rather give it to a person who has a longer lifespan. And I kept that in the back of my mind while I was waiting for the transplant. But I was never afraid, and I always thought that God was with me and that he was going to see me through this transplant. So I waited. At 76, I got a call on Monday, August 8th at approximately 2:20 in the morning, and it was from University Hospital. Now, I am 78 years old, and they told me, and it had been 8 months since that I had been on peritoneal dialysis. And they told me to come to the hospital, and my husband and I went to the hospital. I was so amazed, I didn't even know where I was going. I just woke him up and said, IU Medical Center called and we need to go. They took me in. I had the transplant that day, and it was so ironic because the doctor said to me, would you like to see your kidney? I thought, oh my God, are you serious? He said yes, and it was in an incubator, and we were able to see it. That was exciting to me. What I wanted was to be able to meet the donor, and they have to give their permission for you to meet them. But I wanted to meet, and I've already started the process to try to meet them, because I want to meet that person who thought enough of donating his or her kidney to save my life. And so I am an advocate for taking care of your health, doing what the doctor says. And I got my kidney in August of last year, so it hasn't even been a year. And I'm so very grateful that somebody was an organ donor and gave me another chance at life. So I encourage you that whatever it is that you're going through, be an advocate for you, do what the doctor says. You know, and age doesn't matter, it's being compliant. I thought age had something to do with my receiving a kidney, but it did not. It was me doing what the doctor said. I have some brochures on the table, and they're wonderful brochures. Please take one home with you, or two, or whatever, and learn about your kidneys. There's so many of us, especially in our community, that take that for granted, because there's so many of us that are on high blood pressure. I had high blood pressure, had no idea that it would cause me to have kidney disease. So I just encourage you to take care of your health, be an advocate for you. Don't wait for somebody else to advocate. One last thing. I had been having a headache, and I was telling my husband that. I said, my head hurts. Didn't hurt every day, but, you know, like every other day, and it wasn't like a migraine. It was just a dulling headache. So, and I kept thinking, oh God, is it an aneurysm? I don't know what it is. And I called my transplant coordinator, and she said, Beverly, she said, you know, have you been drinking enough water? Something as simple as drinking water. She said, your body is dehydrated. I was taking Tylenol, and that's why being an advocate for you and checking with your doctor can save you a lot of stress on worrying about what you have or what is, because I was looking at aneurysm and I kept thinking, having kidney disease, and I started looking up kidney disease with headaches a whole bit, and a phone call to my coordinator solved the problem. I just needed to drink more water. So thank you for listening to my journey. I thank God every day that I am able to stand here and share this with you and to just encourage you. Take care of yourself, be an advocate for you. We are advocates for everybody else. Be an advocate for yourself.
Any questions?
Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
How long were you on the list?
How long was I on the list? 8 months. 8 months. From the time I got off the cycle, pardon me?
I said, because when you find you got to come that day, why don't you say, hey, we got something, it's time to go?
Yes. Yes. And I had planned in my mind to be on the list for a very long time after listening to so many stories and some of these things that, you know, your friends and your family, their intention is good. They don't want to harm you in any way. They're just trying to share. So you have to be able to weed out, you know. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brown, do you think the reason you got your kidney so quickly, or I feel like it's so quickly, is because of your compliance? Because I've heard of people who have been on the list for years and never got called.
That being compliant has a lot to do with it. You know, when you don't take your medicine like you should, when you don't go keep your doctor's appointments, they keep a record of all of that. So I am sure, and the doctor probably could answer that, but I am sure when they get a kidney and they look at the records that they have, they look at the ones that are compliant. And this is what my doctor said to me. He said, one of the reasons you were able to get a kidney at 78 years old is because you did what we asked you to do. So we know that if we give you a kidney, you're going to continue to do what we ask you to do. And that's very, very important.
I also know that insurance is a factor too, because a friend of mine had a friend who needed a kidney transplant. He was not able to get it because he was on Medicare, but did not have a Medicare supplemental insurance plan. And because of that, they wouldn't even put him on the list.
Now, I don't know very much about that, because the insurance that I have, and I don't know if the doctor could answer that.
You have,
I'd rather not.
Oh, okay.
yeah, that is. To help you there, saying the dynamic is, and she's very, compliance. And put that word big, compliance. And compliance also means they do checks on you. Compliance also means who you are, who you know. I have a lot of clients I deal with who have been waiting 4 and 5 and 6 years for a kidney. Of course, in my discipline, there is the blessing that you receive for her in 8 months, call you at 3 in the morning, say, come on. I'm saying, have I lost my mind? You get up and you hit it. 8 months. And everybody asks you, well, how did that happen? I said, well, you all go check. But it's a dynamics of compliance, being at the right place and knowing the right people to work with, which my mental person's talking about. We're not minority. Matter of fact, I wanted to flip your script and say we're a majority of the oppressed. But I won't go there either. And of course, as the other presenters are saying, this medical world, this is an interesting ministry. And a lot of things we don't talk about, but I do say, if you're ever a caregiver, one thing you got to acquire. I think I scare her. In the sense, I'm a yoga practitioner. She knows I can take you on a breathing therapy. She knows I can calm you down, and then she'll say, you done calm me down? I say, yeah. I go, that's enough.
Yeah, I know when to stop him.
No. And she's right. She knows when to stop me, because if she doesn't, I'll keep on going. But in regard to being a caregiver, one of the most important things for yourself, is to be patient and give yourself some quiet. You were hitting points. They call it stress. One of the greatest therapies that I use, and that I use with my clients, and these are older people, chairs, breathing therapy. Take 90 seconds, see if any of you for 90 seconds can inhale. I can inhale up to 2 minutes. Hold it, and let yourself relax, and let go of whatever, and do that 3 or 4 times. You're right, in 92 seconds, it's 90-some seconds is gone. 92. The little people at Andrew J. Brown Academy, them little 7th and 8th and 6th and 5th graders get to acting crazy. I just happen to show up and say, okay, let's be still. Take a deep breath, hold it, do that for 2 or 3 minutes. They'd have forgot how crazy they were acting. But it's all tied into your spiritual. I use breathing exercise to adjust to my stress, and the only thing I come up with, you will like this, is gas. And I feel everybody identifies with that. Literally, gas. And then you move about, and woo.
Honey, our time is up.
Don't breathe now.
Go ahead and
Yeah.
tell us about Dr. Show, since you have anything you want to say. Your evaluations, if you get those to me, so we can plan for next year. Appreciate your cooperation and coming. I hope you enjoyed it, and let the breather go to top.
Let the what?
The breather.
No, but to each and every one, and to our presenters, and it's good because it's been 2 years, hasn't it? Or was it 3?
No, we had that.
Was it last year? Yeah. I was breathing wrong last year. Yeah, but the dynamic is thanking you all, and the input is very important. And of course, to my pastor, and to all of us, I think, I'm in a different dimension of spirituality, and would always say, work on meditation. Work on giving yourself quiet time, because ain't nobody else gonna give it to you, am I correct? Give yourself quiet time. Give yourself quiet time. Think positive thoughts. When you're in certain fields like pastors and doctors, or entertainers, or whatever, do you always find yourself with crowds that's always talking stuff, negatives? I would use other nasty words, but I don't think I have to. Check your period of time of being in a positive atmosphere. And you mentioned something which is unique. If you ever get up in the morning and listen to the birds and watch them move around, and you're from Trinidad, Stokely Carmichael was a good buddy of mine, and Ivan Hope Downs, all of them from Trinidad now. That's a whole nother story. But the dynamic of being in nature, and they would watch water. And you all get in the floor with water, it's amazing. There's a vibration. And in our meditation techniques, that's what we teach. How to balance with your nature. And your nature is what God gives you spiritually. Maintain that consciousness. And every time you take a break, think of it like this. Pastor, when you and I inhale, God is exhaling. When we exhale, God is inhaling it back. The cycle goes on. Because guess what? Ain't nothing you all can do here without breath. Nothing. Nothing. So, as we close, all I say is close your eyes. Breathe in peace now. Hold it. Exhale stress, doubt, even pain if